And then one of the recommendations they made was putting a CPC cap because their industry is expensive. So let me ask you this. What's your opinion on CPCs overall?
Yeah. You know who it is. 3 gurus on the mic, no matter where you live. Turning up the volume, ignite the light. Curry cheese and Vegemite. We're bringing you the ads that'll ignite. Tips and tricks to get it right. Every week we take flight.
I have a really good question that I was on a account transfer call where we lost an account and we were moving on to another agency. And then one of the recommendations they made was putting a CPC cap because their industry is expensive. So let me ask you this. What's your opinion on CPCs overall?
In portfolio bids?
Just in general, putting a CPC cap.
So I've looked at, and this was indicative to me over Black Friday, Cyber Monday for a campaign or an account I was running, and I had a portfolio bid strategy with top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel inside the strategy, and I didn't put any CPC bids in there. Now, what was happening was there were search terms that were converting inside the shopping campaign that if I didn't let it go, I would have just put it straight in as a negative keyword. And some of the CPCs were like $7, $8. And but the thing was they were converting. So one, the CPCs were really high. Two, the search terms were like, oh my God, they weren't really a search term that I would think would convert, but they convert. Now, that's the issue that we have is as marketers, we might look at a cost per click and go, oh my God, that's just too expensive. I can't afford to do that. And that's where, the old diamond hand comes in is how long do you just keep running and paying those CPCs until such time as Google optimizes? I've seen campaigns with really, really high CPCs with search terms that really weren't that relevant, but still made the campaign successful. If you give it enough time, this is Google's smart algorithm, it's looking at intent. We're not coming in as marketers and saying, well, that's too expensive. I can't maintain that CPC to be profitable, or those keywords aren't relevant. I'm going to start putting negatives in. This is Google's smart algorithm knowing the intent of the person. So that's a fine line to tread. At what point do you start being more controlling on CPCs? Do you put CPC bid caps in? Now, I've run a test. Where I've got a big chunk of data over a large period of time. I've got all this conversion data, and I had a look at CPC ranges from, say, 50 cents up to $4. And I thought, I wonder if, so I broke everything down into 50-cent increments, 50 cent to $1, $1 to 150, 150 to 2. And I broke everything down into 50-cent windows. And I had a look at how much I was spending in all of those ranges, and then looked at what's the sweet spot, like what CPC range was making me more profitable. And what I found is the more expensive the CPCs, the more profitable those ranges were.
Interesting.
And I think I want to add to that, and because I think the reason for that is the reason the CPC is so expensive is it's because it's the highest market terms, the most competitive. Everyone's bidding for them, and they probably have the largest likelihood to convert. And so, actually, Glenn, you go.
No, well, I was just going to say, John Moran's already brought this up. He is more or less saying there's a bucket of people that Google knows is going to convert, and there's going to be people that are converting, like that Google goes, everyone's bidding on those converters. So there's only going to be a finite amount of people based on Google's, what they know of people, that people are going to bid on. And so it's those who bid the most, again, Google's going to say, here you go. we know these are going to convert. However, there's a whole slew of other people in the market that Google doesn't know it's going to convert. You look at any demographic breakup, you've got a male, female, unknown. There's always that unknown that Google doesn't know who they are or if they're going to convert. That unknown is like, throw it up in the air. No one knows. Google doesn't know everything, but it knows people that it's going to convert, and that's what everyone's trying to bid on. Everyone's trying to get those known converters.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the reason I say that is because, well, there was a test that I ran a long time ago. Well, this is two-tiered, right? So my approach to this has changed in the way I do it. One, I will always have an automated strategy, and then I will always have a manual strategy, preferably max clicks. The way I usually do it is the automated strategy is going to find me my top performing keywords, which is going to be whatever the heck they are, that just work really well for me. And then the second one is going to, which is essentially the demand capture one. And then the first one is going to be demand generation, where I'm just going to take those lump sum of keywords, put them in shopping, search, wherever you want to put them, and just run it on max clicks. Because the TROAS, the automated bidding strategy, is really good at capturing the demand that's already out there, people that Google has information on, like Glen said, and then capturing those people and converting them. Those you can bid high on, right? Like if Colby's going to convert and Google's like, he's got a 50% chance of converting, sure, I'll bid $5 on it, right? But at the same time, if Glen, I have no idea who Glen is, and Glen has like a 30%, I'll bid less on it, right? So for me, it's demand generation, demand capture, which is why I'll always run one that's separate on a lower, let's just say CPC, and one that's, look at all the balloons. And so I'll have one that's going to be generating demand on a high, like a just click focused on my best converting terms, and one that's going to be demand capture, just open broad in general. Thoughts on that?
Well, that's similar to John Moran's strategy, isn't it? He runs a max clicks campaign. He does it with his search. Yep. He does a max clicks, and then he also runs a broadimation campaign beside it.
Yep.
I have a thing to add though, and I think it's important for people to know. This is a budget specific thing. If you're a lower budget marketer, you don't have to go and do all the complicated stuff. Like, keep it simple. You can follow the fundamentals. This is when you're looking for that larger scale and really trying to open things up, because, you know, maybe you're spending that point where you're hitting diminishing returns with a smart bid strategy. When you open it up with the method Usama's talking about, now you're starting to get into that unknown, and you're going to find another way that you can start scaling even further.
What Colby said. But if you're like in the early, this is stuff that starts coming in once you're like, whether you guys like it or not, there's demand for almost everything on Google. So stuff like this starts coming into play when you're at like 100K in ad spend. Before that, you could probably get away with like really simple fundamental setups and not have to worry about this stuff. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. What do you think, Glenn?
It's good to know. It's good to know. I think a lot of I don't think you need to complicate it until you do, if that makes any sense, right?
Agreed.
Get started with the basics. Watch it. If you need to scale, that's when you need to start looking into other methods. But yeah, if you're not hitting your KPIs, that's when you know you need a more complex strategy, or if you're trying to scale. But, you know, if you got a simple strategy and it's doing well, don't get crazy.
Don't break it.
Yeah.
Come break Colby instead.
Yeah, do it.
What's interesting is I did a different approach. I actually made standard shopping my massive spend. That one had $2,600 per day, and my PMAX only had 500.
Okay.
And now here's one of the reasons why is in this particular account,